So Sainsbury's BIM journey started about 5 years ago, and at the time it was all around building information modelling. So how do we transition from creating a 2D plan to working in 3D and use a 3D model to populate as much information as possible, so then we can really understand and make better informed decisions. The challenge we've got is actually, if we're building a store from scratch, all of the consultants are working in 3D, and that's great, but we've got a massive existing estate and everything's in 2D. So it moved quite quickly over to working in a 2D environment, and in that area my perception of it has changed from building information modelling to better information management. And it's all around data and information, and it's the ability to answer them simple questions around what have we got, how many of them have we got across our estate, and it's become more existing estate focused rather than the 3D model side. One Property for Sainsbury's started off as part of our digital estate programme. There were 3 things we wanted to deliver. We wanted a filing cabinet to kind of hold our drawings and documents. We wanted a database where we can then programmatically extract information that's siloed within our CAD plans and harness that and start answering questions around what have we got, how do we utilise it, what's the different spaces across our estate. And then the third bit is about process manager. So we recognised quite quickly that you'll never get a single system that does everything. And one of our big drivers with One Property was actually we want to be able to integrate with other systems and existing platforms that we've had for 15 years plus that have got loads of credible data already in them that we really need to be able to harness and utilise. And what we didn't want, and what we've currently got in some legacy systems, is actually you create information over here. We don't want to have to manually duplicate information in another system. We want the ability that when it's created over here, it's programmatically created from source, and that's exactly what we've got for One Property. So a store gets created, or an investment gets allocated in Salesforce from source, and as soon as we allocate it as a project and a program, it programmatically gets allocated into One Property, so it's fully integrated. And any changes are synchronised. And the challenge you get with duplicated information is, unless they're both exactly aligned, you start to destroy the confidence and the credibility people have in data, because they don't know which one to trust. And that's where we're trying to get away from. Single source. I gave BC the challenge of, look, I've got existing systems that we have to integrate and we have to create single source. And both the integration with Icon and the Specs and Standard system and the integration with Salesforce have gone really well, because this is only the first phase for us for digital estate. So we've got quite a long journey, and it's a 3 to 5 year program for us, where we're looking at kind of pulling all of our data and information together to create single source and have confidence in the credibility of our information so we can make informed business decisions. Quite excited about was actually I came across both BC and PCSG completely independent, and then found out actually they've got a really close working relationship, and the guys have collaborated in the past. I want a single container for each asset where you can kind of chuck all of your data in, all your drawings, all your documents, and because of the way that they're programmatically named using industry standards like PAS 1192, you can find things. One of the big challenges we had was actually it's not easy to find drawings and documents, to the point that actually if we couldn't find it quickly, or we didn't trust the credibility of it, we'd go out and survey. So actually being able to find stuff was one of our key drivers, and to have confidence in that information. And the direction that we're going in as a business around digitising the estate and being able to really understand our existing assets, and the capability that BC currently have, and the innovation and the future roadmap is quite aligned with the direction that we want to go in. The way the retail industry has changed over the last couple of years is we're no longer building as many new stores, extensions, refurbishments, and we're concentrating on our existing estate. And that's consistent across the retail sector. And to face into that, we need to be able to answer plain language questions around our existing estate. And one of our biggest benefits now is actually we really understand our existing fit-out estate. We can start asking the database questions around, okay, tell me how many pizza counters I've got in the estate, tell me how much warehouse space I've got. We can start comparing that against our gross internal space to say, actually, we've got stores across our estate that have an inefficient ratio of space in the warehouse compared to sales floor. And actually, BC and the database that we've put in place will help us to look at where there's space in our stores and how we can really sweat our assets and how we can then offer more to our customers and kind of create a rounded offer for everyone. So every new store, every extension and every major refurbishment we use, we are still designing and developing all of our stores using building information modelling. So everything's drawn in 3D, everything will have an IFC output, and as part of the standard package we've got with BC, we've got their BIM module. When historically we would be given a PDF as a 2D still, and we couldn't utilise the fact that actually for the last 3 years now we've been creating plans in 3D. Through the software we've now delivered as One Property through BC, we have the capability to start reviewing them documents and really making informed decisions on the new stores. At the moment, the focus has all been around our trading estate and supermarkets, convenience, petrol stations. We've got the integration of Argos, which absolutely is going to have a big piece to play on what we're doing over the next 18 months. And we've also got the fact that we don't just own trading estates, we are a massive property portfolio. And all of that needs to be effectively managed. So we're going to be spending a lot of time over the next 2 years figuring out, well, actually, what about everything else? And how do we get to the point where we can, going back to them plain language questions we want to be able to answer, how can we make informed decisions on how we really maximise the benefit of our estate?
What's been quite novel about Sainsbury's is rather than just jumping straight into there with BIM and going and creating 3D models of each of their stores at great expense, they've actually found another way of getting the benefits of BIM without actually having to go through that huge expense of laser scanning all their stores. And they've done that by using by getting us to use their DXF drawings and scraping the content out of that and creating a digital estate, which will be there for a long time and will save them lots of time and money.
Just a bit around Sainsbury's and a bit of the background. So ultimately, we've got a massive consultancy base. Everything, or majority of stuff we do is all D&B contracts. And we've got an existing estate of about 1,600 Sainsbury's stores, and they're all in 2D.
And really, it's really ended up in an information explosion that some of the existing systems that Mike's been through is struggling to keep them all in line. And really, that's what's then come on to this. I mean, BIM, we talk about plain language questions. It's those really, if you're doing a lot of interventions in stores, you need to be able to answer these really basic plain language questions quickly so that people can make decisions. It's how many of these do we have? How many square feet have we got of this? And that was the ultimate goal of digital estate.
Is the principle of what you can do in an IFC and how you can extract information out of an IFC. Why can't I do that in the 2D world? And we've already, for the last 10 years, our drawings are set up using object-based CAD, and we can pull all of that out using some existing tools we've already got, but they're all siloed on spreadsheets or individually in the drawing. And how can you suck all that information out and bring it to a central database to start answering some of them questions that Mark showed you?
The other thing we've obviously done is working with BC in terms of implementing the BS 1192 workflows. Again, we've tried, I've worked closely with Mark. We've tried to sort of, implement it in a way that we know will work, but still conforms as much as possible to the standard. And, that's our interpretation of it, and we've been working with Group BC to do that.
And we've got all our fit-out teams, and we spent a lot of time looking at, okay, how do we get this across? How do we get people to understand why we're doing it and what's in it for them? So we decided to put this metaphor in place where we said, actually, we've delivered a garage, delivered a shed. And at the moment, we've taken the BC platform and we've got an empty container. We've defined with PCSG the standards and the house rules. We've created some containers to where to store stuff. And ultimately, this is what we want. We want everything in a place where we can find it and it's well structured. This is what we don't want. And then that so all of them were the building blocks and the jigsaw pieces that this common data environment that we delivered through BC, we now want to link it all together. So we want to take all of the framework we've done and connect the pieces. So 7th of November, we launched the first phase of our instance of Business Collaborator. We then imported from that data cleanse we did all of the drawings for supermarkets, convenience and petrol, which equated to nearly 1,700 drawings. And we'll talk about this in a bit more detail as we come on, but we've linked through BC's and Icon's API the ability to then go off to specs and standards and pull all of that information from specs. And now we can start doing some really clever reporting to start answering the questions around, well, what have we got? How many have we got from a fit-out point of view? So this kind of just explains the process. So ultimately, you've got your CAD drawing, you've got the store spaces creating the rooms and spaces, you've got specs and standards that's holding all of our kind of classification and individual objects levels. So we've each got an individual data sheet with 47 different types of metadata in. You've got the validation toolkit that I took you through that Chris and his team has developed. And you've got the naming convention that Mark and his team at PCSG supported. And all of that gives us a really robust drawing. We upload it into BC. So this is our kind of CDE. We upload it in a DXF format. And the principle for IFC is going to be exactly the same. The system extracts it. So it can take an hour, 24 hours, depending on how big the file is, to gather information. And then we can start doing some really clever stuff on it and start reporting on the information in the database.
We end up with a situation where some of those plain language questions of how many of these do we have, how many square foot have we got of this, and which stores have got one of these, we can now answer in a matter of seconds. And more importantly, self-service. So in individuals in the past within Sainsbury's property, you know, the whole that we all get this, can you just tell me? And you say, okay, I'll send you that. Now people can self-service, which means that people can get on with the interesting stuff.